Go ahead and call to order the East Consolidated Zoning Board. Can we go ahead and do roll call, please?
Yes. Ken Sanderson is absent. Kelly Rast.
Present.
Fred Wingert.
Present.
Rod Richardson.
Present.
And Ken Klingensmith.
Present, thank you.
Thank you. We do have a quorum.
Can you go ahead and read the statement of hybrid in-person virtual meeting, please?
Yes. This meeting is now being recorded in the board hearing room with zoning board members attending in person. There's also an option for virtual attendance on Zoom webinar. For Zoom participants wishing to speak, please use the raise hand function in the Zoom app at the start of the agenda item on which you desire to comment. Comments will be received from in-person attendees first, followed by Zoom participants. When it is your turn to speak, the moderator will recognize you by the name or phone number used to join the Zoom webinar. Please state your name and the community where you reside for the record, followed by your comments. If you have trouble with Zoom, please call 913-715-9666. Board members, staff, and presenters, please state your name every time you begin talking, and please speak into the microphone so your comments can be transcribed for the record. This is a public meeting. We are presenting live and recording the meeting. Thank you.
Thank you. Let's go ahead and review the agenda. Are there any items to add or delete or revise? It looks like we have one application that I believe was remanded back by the Board of County Commissioners at the request of the applicant. Any other changes or items? Hearing none, any disclosures of conflict of interest or external contacts or discussions related to the application? Hearing none, I'll take an approval for the February 5th board minutes that were included in your packet.
Kelly Rast, make a motion to approve the minutes from February 5th, 2025.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Hearing no opposed. Thank you, Fred. We'll approve the minutes for the February 5th meeting. Board of County Commissioners actions or Planning Commission actions to update us.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Jay Leipzig, the Director of Planning. On the Planning Commission agenda, we met on February 25th, 2025. There are two items on the agenda that evening. We did our year in review where we went through all of the cases throughout the year that were before the zoning boards and planning commission. We also had an additional training on rural planning, and we did an exercise with the planning commissioners on what is involved in reviewing a rural planning application. So I thought it was a great training, and it seemed like it was well received by the planning commission. That was on the February 25th meeting, the planning commission. The last meeting of this body, the East Consolidated Zoning Board, on February 5th was the Wolfert landscape CUP for Lighthouse Landscape. That item is being presented before the Board of County Commissioners tomorrow morning at 9:30. And that concludes my report. With one additional item, Mr. Chair, also on your dais this evening is the assessment report that was completed by Clarion Associates, which is the consultant that's helping us develop the zoning and subdivision regulations. It's great reading if you have a moment. It's a good primer for what they're going to be putting forth and prescribing this next year. We had a couple of great meetings earlier this week with our stakeholders committee that kind of to get some additional input, and now they are starting to write the document essentially, and then we'll be scheduling a meeting with our stakeholders here sometime within the next month. That concludes my report.
Any questions on the reports?
I have just a brief question, Rod Richardson. On page 4 of what you handed us on item B8, B as in boy 8, since we've talked about this ad nauseum, I just have a question. It says establish outdoor lighting standards in a centralized location, set standards to protect rights-of-way and neighbors from glare and to preserve the night sky. My only question is, when they say in a centralized location, does that mean as part of the zoning standards rather than sort of ad hoc between the zoning boards?
Yes, I believe that's what that means.
Okay.
Commissioner, that's a good question. I think that's what that means.
Okay. Thank you.
I will just say there's been a lot of discussion about that. Again, we talked about that at our stakeholders meeting earlier this week as well.
Excellent. Obviously, that's an important issue to us in the trenches here.
All right. Any other comment? Hearing none, we'll go ahead and get an update on the application E 24443 CUP-AU, a conditional use permit. I believe, like I indicated earlier, I believe this was remanded back from the Board of County Commissioners at the applicant's request, just related to the fact that we were going to demolish a building and now they're going to keep that building. And Stowe, I'll let you go ahead and give us a staff report on that.
Yeah, you're absolutely correct. Zoe Brown, Planning. On February 6th, the Board of County Commissioners remanded the application for a CUP for a golf driving range and hitting shed. For the East Zoning Board's consideration of stipulation number 4, which is regarding the demolition of a house and accessory structure on the property. Here's a photo of the existing house and barn. So after the East Zoning Board meeting on January 8th, the applicant notified staff that they would like to request a change to stipulation number 4, which states that the existing structures on the property, including the house and accessory structures, shall be demolished prior to the issuance of a land disturbance permit, and a demolition permit shall be issued prior to the removal of any structure on the property. So the applicant has requested to amend the stipulation so that the house and barn can remain. There have been no other changes to the plans or stipulations as part of the remand. The plans have been revised to show the change with the house and accessory structure remaining on the property and the berms shifted toward the east. Planning staff is in support of amending stipulation number 4 to allow for the house and barn to remain as they are currently used for employee housing and storage during the term of the CUP. And the applicant is here for questions as well.
Question, Rod Richardson, on the original documents that we have here, one of the stipulations stated existing structures on the property, including the house and accessory structures, shall be demolished prior to issuance of a land disturbance permit, as you say. The demolition permit shall be issued prior to the removal of any structure on the property. Was that stipulation originally there, placed there by the staff for a reason?
So initially, all of the structures on the property were marked for demolition in the plans. So the stipulation was just going to reflect that.
Just reflecting what the applicant intended?
Yes,
Okay. So now this is just a matter of the applicant changing their mind on that?
right.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions of staff? All right, thank you, Zoe. The applicant have any comment or note? Okay. Anyone on Zoom for public comment? I think because it's remanded, we don't really have a public comment period. Is that correct? Okay. So we'll go ahead and move to just discussion among the board. For me, I don't see this as a significant change. It's at the applicant's request. It was originally, as Rod, you pointed out, which was a good question. It wasn't a staff recommendation, and so I don't see any reason why we wouldn't move that forward.
Rod Richardson, I would agree. I don't, I mean, that would have made a difference if there was some compelling reason to remove it, but it doesn't appear not. It appears just that more of the convenience of the applicant. So I certainly have no objection to the change.
Kelly Rast, agree.
Brad, any comments?
Fred Wingert, agree.
Okay, do we have a motion?
Mr. Chairman, Rod Richardson, I would move that we approve application number E 24-443-CUP-AU, conditional use permit for 18845 Lackman Road, as and pursuant to the same stipulations we had before, with the exception of the removal of stipulation number 4 to allow for the house and barn to remain as they are currently used for employee housing and storage during the term of the CUP.
Do we have a second?
Kelly Rast, second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Fred? I believe that was an aye. So that's unanimously passed. So this will go before the Board of County Commissioners.
On April 3rd in this room, 111 South Cherry Street, Olathe, Kansas.
All right. Thank you, gentlemen. Looking at the agenda, that is actually the only agenda item for this evening. Do we have any other business before the board?
Mr. Chairman, Rod Richardson, I would just because I have not seen this document on the assessment report, I just want to make sure before I read it, I understand. This says it's a public review edition. So presumably that would invite comments, or how are comments on this? Should we or any member of the public want to make comments, how would those comments be delivered and to whom?
Mr. Richardson, Jay Leipzig, what I would suggest is this document will be placed on our website, our webpage dedicated to the zoning and subdivision regulations. So the document will be available for the public to review. What I would suggest in terms of comments, if you'd like to submit those to planning staff, we'll certainly include that. This will be presented. This piece of it is essentially finished. This is kind of an internal review that they completed, and then to ensure that additional comments be part of the draft that's being developed right now. So I would say submitting those comments to the planning staff would be your best route, and then it will be discussed by the advisory committee when they meet, probably sometime this next month.
Okay,
Does this assessment report then create sort of the direction or the outline for a bigger report? Is that the kind of concept?
Yes, essentially that's what it does, Commissioner. Essentially, it's a review of our current zoning and subdivision regulations, and then on high level overview of what they will be proposing or the areas to focus on. Doesn't
This would
really
be
provide a lot
more-
of details, but it's a general framework for the analysis.
Ken Klingsmith again. This would be more than a general, what's not included, what was missed, that needs to kind of be part of the overall plan versus here's feedback on narrative or comments. It's more what's included, not included, or
Yes,
type
that
of
is
an
correct.
approach.
That's correct.
Ms. Kelly Rast, so someone on the planning commission asked the same thing. And so it was kind of decided to either just submit the questions, whether it's the planning commission or to the advisory committee, and then they can have an opportunity to discuss them. We can all discuss them at the advisory committee as well at that point. So at least that seems to be a consistency between the zoning board and planning commission.
so
Plan.
should any one of us have a comment consistent with what you're saying and what you said, we would submit it to planning staff. They would then get it to you folks, the advisory group. Is that correct?
That's what I would suggest.
Okay, and then last but not least, what's the deadline for submitting those comments, if anybody has any?
Those, there really is not a particular deadline, Commissioner. This is something they're beginning the draft and they're dividing it into modules. But really you could submit those comments anytime. It is going to be a project for the next 9 to 10 months.
Okay,
So you have plenty of time to do
We
it.
don't have a date set up for the next meeting.
No, we do not yet. We're meeting with them tomorrow and we're hoping to set a date tomorrow during our meeting.
that date might be probably, any idea?
In terms of the next meeting with the advisory committee, I would say sometime in April, probably the end of April.
I would think any comments ought to be in before then.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, this is really, it's a collaborative effort between getting those comments, sharing them with the advisory committee, getting some additional feedback from them, and then the kind of a continual editing process between now and the end of the year.
Right.
So I'm sorry, go ahead.
I was going to say, my only concern on all of this is this process is moving along. These consultants are doing their job, et cetera. But as in all these things, the chance to have your voice heard or your concern heard about something diminishes rapidly if it's too late in the process. So it would seem to me if anybody has any comments, at least about this document, they ought to be in before whenever this next meeting comes around. So,
And
Yeah.
so for the public opinion, this is Ken. So for the public opinion, we're still looking at, you have this, we'll review these, we go to the next meeting that's going to be scheduled sometime in April. And then that's when residents in the community are then going to be engaged following that type of a narrative. Is that about?
That is correct. And there'll be a series of in addition to stakeholder meeting, other meetings with the public to ensure that everything, they have a chance to look at that. And then there again, all of these documents will be on the website too, so people can comment on them as appropriate.
Okay, thank you for that.
thank you.
Any other comments before the board? Can we go ahead and have a motion to adjourn?
Mr. Chairman, Rod Richardson, move to adjourn.
Kelly Rast, second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, meeting's adjourned. Thank you.
Thanks.
Thanks.